Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from CS25148. We're going to do code review and pentest on Money Tracker. I'll be doing a code review on login.php file, the one that is outside of the process folder. Okay, so first of all, there are few highlights for this. There are critical, high risk, and also medium risk vulnerabilities in the code. For this one, it stated that the first critical is incorrect session start. Instead of using all caps, they stated to use all lowercase letters. This one, critical, which is missing security headers, missing content security policy, frame, X-frame options, and also XSS protection, which is to protect ourselves from any attacks on XSS. Here also state about missing security meta tags. There's talk about missing external resources without SRI. SRI is a sub-resource integrity in the security features that enables the browser to identify whether the resources that they fetch are delivered without any unwanted manipulations. And then for here is stated that they are missing CSRF protection, which is CSRF token. Here, high risk for unsanitized inputs for all of these forms. Here also state about a critical, which is unsanitized JavaScript output for this one. Now I'll be doing on dashboard code review on dashboard.php for transaction system. So as you can see here again, there are three levels of vulnerability. There are critical, high risk, and also medium risk. So the first one here is stated about the critical, which is incorrect session handling. Instead of using all capital letters, we use lowercase letters. This one is critical for as it doesn't have any validation, which is to check whether the user is actually logged in or not. This one is critical for database credentials here. For here, it is critical for SQL injection vulnerabilities, which shows that SQL injection could happen to this part of the web application. High risk for error handling in database operations. High risk in unsanitized calculations. Missing security meta tags here. No resources regarding SRI. Here is a high risk for XSS vulnerability in balance display here. It shows that it is very vulnerable for XSS attack regarding balance. Critical for SQL injection vulnerabilities over here. It shows that SQL injection may happen here. A high risk for XSS vulnerabilities in data display, which means that the attacker could take the data. And here is critical for CSRF vulnerabilities in deleting action, which is vulnerable for CSRF attacks. So for this one, I'll be doing on the second part for our transaction system, which is the code on at transaction.php. So this is a snippet of the code that they highlighted as very vulnerable. The first one is critical here, critical missing validation session, which to ensure that validates whether the user is already logged into the system before the page is shown. The second one is critical hard-coded database credential, because it is very vulnerable here, because once a person gets the handle on the code, they are able to look at the code and also see where the database is. And this third one is critical on no input validation, no validation here. And the fourth one is on critical for SQL injection vulnerability, because the SQL is there and people are able to inject to code to gain the database. And the last one is high risk for error handling.
Now we will demonstrate an SQL injection attack on this money tracker application. SQL injection attack is a cyber attack where attacker can easily exploit the vulnerabilities in a website's code to steal or manipulate the database. Usually, the attacker will use this to steal sensitive information or alter the sensitive information. Now, let's try to attempt a classic SQL injection here. I will put this payload at the email field and at the password field. When I try to submit, it seems that this money tracker application have a client-side validation. However, the attacker can easily bypass this restriction by using a tool like SQL map. This SQL map is a penetration testing tool that can find and exploit the vulnerabilities in a website that caused by the improper handling of the database queries. Now let me show you how the attacker done this SQL injection. First, we need to open the website and open the pursuit, and now we need to turn on the Foxy proxy and put the value of the payload at the email field and the password field. But before we submit this value, we need to turn on the intercept of the proxy at the pursuit, and then after that we can submit the value. And after we submit the value, we will got the intercept at the pursuit, and this intercept need to be saved as a file because later on we will use with the command SQL map. And now we will use this command to do the SQL injection attack. So what happened here is that this command actually tell SQL map to read the HTTP request from a file called try4.tsd, which we saved before this. In our case, we have post request, which captured by the pursuit. Now, this command actually the highest testing level. At level 5, it performed the most route check using a variety of SQL injection technique to identify the vulnerabilities. While at level 3, the SQL map will use more aggressive payload that could potentially overload or disrupt the target server. And this dump option actually tell SQL map to extract all the data from the targeted database. Now let's see the output. Based on this output, we can see that the database is empty, known as empty, and it have two tables, which is user table and transaction table. Now the attacker has access to the user account that include email and the password that not be encrypted with any hash. And the attacker also have access to the financial record such as transaction amount and date. This could help them identify the high-value target for future attacks. To prevent the SQL injection from happening, we need to improve our code. Based on this original code, the SQL query is dynamically built by directly inserting the user input such as email and password into this query string. So this actually can make it easy for the attacker to manipulate the queries. And to prevent this, we can improvise our code. In the improvised code, we use the prepare statement with the parametric query. And how it works, the query will send first to the MySQL server with this placeholder for the user input. And the user input such as email and password will bound to this placeholder using this by parang function. And this actually can prevent the server from treating the input as a part of the SQL query, ensuring that even if the input contains a malicious SQL code, it will be treated as data and not executable code. Now, even though we use prepare statement to prevent the SQL injection, storing plain text passwords like before will still be risky. So instead, we need to hash the password using the hash password function and then verify the password using this password verify function. And that's all for preventing SQL injection attack.
Next, I will show you the penetration test on Money Tracker web application using cross-site request forgery, or also known as CSRF attack. CSRF is an attack that forces an end user to execute unwanted actions on a web application. So in a successful CSRF attack, the attacker causes the victim to carry out an action unintentionally. For example, in this demonstration, I will show you how to change the user password. So first, we can see here, this is the Money Tracker web application, and on the right side is the malicious HTML file that is created to change the user password. So the malicious page automatically submits the form using the script tag in the HTML. This will submit the password change request to the Money Tracker app and will change the account's password to password 123. So in order for this attack to happen, is the user need to log in first into the Money Tracker web application. So first I will log in as a user, as the victim. I will log in using this email and using this password 123. So this is the Money Tracker application. So for example, I am tricked into visiting a malicious page containing the crafted HTML. And when I enter the HTML file, the malicious page will submit a post request to the change password.php endpoint of the Money Tracker web application. So since me as the victim, the session cookie is valid, the server will accept the request and change the password without my knowledge or consent. So this shows that the vulnerability exists and no security measures like CSRF token are implemented. So the password is silently changed from 123 to password 123 without any confirmation or prompt. So this works because the browser sends the session cookie automatically when it submits the form to change password.php, assuming that the victim are logged in. So since there's no check for a CSRF token or re-authentication, the server will think that the request to change the password is coming from the user because the user is logged in and the process the request without any confirmation. So next, how to prevent CSRF attack. First, we create a unique CSRF token. So in the change password.php form, we use a random underscore bytes to generate it and store it in the session. So then at the bottom here, we can see, here we include this token as a hidden input field in the form. Next, when the form is submitted, we validate the CSRF token on the server, which we put this code in the change password.php file. And then we compare the token from the form with the one in the session. So if they don't match, it will reject the request. So here, when I want to log in again using the password that I had created, which is password 123, I am unable to log in again. This proves that the CSRF tokens will verify that the request originates from an authorized and trusted sources only, which they will ensure that any action requiring user authentication like password changes or transaction is explicitly and initiated by the user only. And so for the user, the CSRF tokens work seamlessly in the background, and the user will not burden with additional steps or actions, making this method user-friendly and still providing strong protection. That is the end of the demonstration, and that is all from us. Thank you.